Okay, in this video we're going to take a look at the Russian model 1895 Nagant revolver. At one point in time, back during the Mosin Nagant craze and that, a lot of these old World War II Russian rifles and pistols were out on the market. And instead of doing one where I field strip it, and we're going to talk about the collectability and kind of like my experience with these pistols. And we're going to talk about the price, the going price. And actually, since we like to discuss this, I kind of suggest when I start talking about prices, if you recently purchased one, please say what you bought it for in the comments section. Or if you've seen one for sale, tell us what the asking price was in the comment section, so we can have like an open discussion more for mill surplus collectors. Okay, so like I said, back in the heyday, and it's going back maybe 15 years. I don't know how long I've had this gun, but that's what happens when you get real old. You lose track of time. But at one time, when Mosin Nagants were $100 a piece and everybody was having a good time, these guns showed up, and they were under $100. Now, first thing is, when you look at this synthetic pebble holster, okay, is post-World War II. This is when they refurbished the guns, because leathers, you all know, don't store well or nothing. So when they refurbished the guns, they put them in these holsters. So this is a post-war holster. You know, these things were around, I'm not quite sure what the date is, 19-something-3. So when these guns were refurbed, you had the holster. There is a stamp here. I can't really read it. It came with a cleaning rod. This little ammo pouch, which I have with ammo, and I did buy a case of this actual Russian ammunition. It was quite expensive when it was available. I think it was $300 for a case, but it's for the pistol. It was pretty current. I think 1970s the ammo was made on the head stamp. So it's not really old, but it's getting there. 50 years is a long time. So, we got our Nagant revolver. And like I said, I got the whole rig. When I went to the store to buy this, the guy had a case full of pistols. Okay. And he goes, which one do you want? I said, I don't know. The holster net was off to the side, but he had these guns laid out, and he laid 5 of them up on the counter and said, look at them. He had like 10 in there. He pulled out a random issue of 5. He goes, they're all about the same. And he let me look at them, and you could check the date. And I think I got one, 1932 is the one I got. There's the markings on there. And, you know, they put the importer's mark right on the frame and that. But the gun is, you know, and again, there's a little wooden piece in this, and then this is a plastic, hard plastic grips. So I'm thinking this gun was probably re-arsenaled and redone at one time. You know, it has a nice deep blue, which kind of, you know, tells you that it was redone, because if you find one of these that wasn't reworked, the bluing in that kind of fades, and you know, it looks a lot different. If you've seen one that was not re-arsenaled and set it next to this one, the bluing and the finish and everything is not as deep as this gun. Now this one, compared to the other two designs that I had, again, has this loading. All this loading gate's different. This one's different. The loading gate swings down, and you can rotate this, and then again we have the ejector. And I'm not going to do anything on taking it apart functioning, because there's probably 1,000 videos out there about this pistol, okay? How to disassemble it, clean it, even reload for it. The thing is, I still have a ton of that pistol ammo that I bought, and that's why I never did get around to reloading for this. But what you would do is you would take the PPU center fire brass, and the PPU ammo is not as powerful or the velocity as the military or the Russian issue ammo. And I did a video on that where I ran it on a chronograph. But you take that PPU case, which is long and sticks out, because we all know how this works. This is the weird one. See the gap? When you use my skin, pull that back, that cylinder goes forward and forms a perfect gas seal. Okay? And then when you fire, it drops back. The PPU ammo is a little long and will protrude to make the seal. So what you do is, if you fire those cases, or you could buy the cases, you trim them back and just shorten them and put a bullet and a load in there so it fits inside the cylinder. And that's basically how you reload it. So the thing about these, like any of the firearms that Soviet Union made, these older ones, you know, the war was on. They developed the Tokarev and some other pistols, but these things were still being produced or around in large numbers and were used by the military. Okay, they were issued to people in World War II. And post-war, I believe the communists, to create jobs, what it was, I read in Pravda, one of the famous commanders or generals during the Russian war, said when the war ended and was over, all the people that were running around, be it partisans, military units, or just people, you know, killing Germans, all the Soviets were required to just go home and take their weapons, and they would put them in a pile, and they would get discharged and they'd go home. So there were piles and piles of guns, not including all the guns left by the German forces, the Italians, and whoever invaded the Soviet Union. All of these things were gathered up, placed in storage, and I believe for years afterwards they went through and refurbished these weapons. And the Soviet policy as military aid and to sway countries politically is they would give them these guns. That's why those M1895 Nagants came in a crate with cleaning kits and everything. Those were given away to people to get their political support to help these factions take over a country. And so that's basically what they did with these. These guns were in storage. And I remember when they'd come in, I think there was 12 or maybe 24 pistols. I actually seen an auction where the whole case, the pistols and everything were in there. They were auctioning the whole case of revolvers off. Okay? And the strange thing about these, like I said, the guy had a dozen of them in a display case, and all of them looked the same. You had different dates. You know, I think I took a date from the 30s. That was the latest date I could find on there. Some people may have wanted a World War II date, okay, but I wanted that date. I can't remember exactly why I did it, but the gun's like in brand new condition, totally refurbished. And it was under $100 with the holster, all the other stuff, you know. I don't think they had ammo there, or if they did, it was PPU ammo. It was more, you know, all Nagant ammo was fairly expensive. And the thing about these pistols, this ungodly trigger pull on this, probably this is the toughest trigger pull of any gun out there, okay? And it's a difficult gun to shoot, but an interesting part of your collection, and if you wanted them for under $100, you know, can't argue. And my question is, what happens to these guns? Now, once the flow got cut off for whatever reason, political or something, because I believe there's still a few million of either these and the M1895 Nagants out there, rifles out there. Once they stopped coming in, and you know, it's a common thing, there's all kinds of videos, they were inexpensive, so everyone's buying one to keep in their collection. Much like the recent Carcano rifle craze. And at that time, that price was kind of unbelievable. So once the supply's cut off, you don't see these guns no more. And a strange thing about it, it's a common gun. Okay, they were all over the place. Like I said, if I went into a shop, I had a choice of 10 guns in the counter. So now you ask yourself, okay, I want to add one of these to my collection. And the strange thing that I've found is once a supply surplus dries up, you never quite really see these things show up. Like I go to the local gun show and I don't think I've seen one of these come up. Maybe I have. I've seen one or two pop up here and there. But now here's the thing. What's the price? What is the fair price for one of these? Now a recent scan through Gunbroker, which sometimes that ain't the way to go. I see here, I got the computer, I ain't gonna trouble you with that. But I see one individual has two of these pistols, and it's a collection. He's asking $1,000, 500 a piece. Okay, and somebody here has one that is beat up a little. I think this one hasn't been refurbished, or has it? No, this one has not been refurbished. Okay, and the finish is kind of worn on it. Looks a little bit on the beat-ass side. Let me see if it's got a import. No, it does not. 1937. So this one's a little bit on the unusual side. Let me check it out. If it has an import mark. Doesn't say. Well, I've seen these things $500, $700, $1,000. One, they had a gun like this, $1,500 with some ammo. Okay, and now you're getting to where it's crazy. Okay, so what? Say you wanted one. Say you're a new collector and you wanted to get one of these to put in your collection. What's it worth? Okay, in reality, what would be a fair price? Granted, there's a bunch of them out there. It's not that uncommon of a gun, but now the supply of them is dried up and you're not going to find any coming in with all the accessories and that. What would be a fair price for, say, this gun right here? Okay, I wouldn't pay $500 for something like this. And you kind of have to look at it, and there are rare versions. I seen a version that was made in Poland, had the Polish arsenal markings, and that was done in the 30s. Okay, and it was only 7,000 of them made. So yeah, a pistol like that, kind of, you're looking at $1,000. You know, they're hard to find. If you collected these, that would be a tough gun to find. That is worth about $1,000, I'd say, if not more, depending. You don't see one every day. But one of these that came in refurbished, you know, what are they worth? What should you pay? I would say when you look at the guns that are coming in now to the different places, you got some Czech pistols, you got some stuff coming out of Israel, high powers. High powers are always going to be a little more. But say your Makarovs and any of your Czech CZ70s and that, and those are pretty steep. And I think they had some CZ82s and 83s. One place had them, they're a little beat up. The 82 is the military version. The 83 is the civilian version in the 9mm Makarov. Those were going $400 or $500, and they kind of dropped down under $400 because they weren't selling. You know, I think the ammunition's tough for people. It's not that popular of a gun anymore. I wouldn't mind getting one, but some of them in nice condition with the holster get up there to $450, $500. Something like this, the way it is with the holster and that, you know, if it was just the gun alone, I'd say $350, $400, okay. With the holster, that might take it up $450, and somebody wanting to get greedy $500, but I really don't know. I've seen some of these come up in auctions, and they did go high. But now that I've been studying and listening to people about auctions, it's kind of like I was at one of the biggest auction houses in the U.S. And I was looking at these Japanese rifles, and they had like a grouping of 5 or 6 Japanese rifles, and nothing special. There's some 6.5s, you know, there's 38s, 99s. And I said, I wouldn't mind getting that grouping. They went, I sat there and watched, they went for $600 a rifle. You know, for a group of 5 Japanese rifles, you know, thousands of dollars, and I doubt very much that you can find a lot of people willing to fork over, you know, $600, $700 for a pretty common gun, okay? You know, there are some rare, unusual Japanese rifles that get a little bit more of a higher price, but just the standard 38 and 99, I don't believe they're worth $600, okay? I think the last one I bought, it was really nice, it was an early one, was like about, I think I paid $250 or something. That was a long time ago, but now it's crazy. So say you wanted one of these, I'd say 3.5 if it's in nice shape. But then again, there's factors, condition, and if it's a more unusual model. There are some models that are a little bit more uncommon, not like this one here, but that's my thoughts on it. You know, and another strange thing, you see all these guns be sold, but you never see them show up on a secondary market. Like you'd figure if you went into a pawn shop, you'd see several of these. They must have sold hundreds of these in a local area. Or in a gun shop, you never really quite see them. So I always wonder, whatever the hell happens to them? You know, you figure you'd see more of them show up somewhere for sale sooner or later. You never do. And then again, like trying to sell these. One guy told me he bought a bunch of them from a guy for practically none. He paid him like $150 a piece for this and some other pistol, because the old fella said nobody wants them. Nobody knows the caliber. Nobody wants them. And again, when you go to sell the area, you know, I've had good deals coming from little local auctions where people really don't know what it is or whatever, or they don't go high. Online, God only knows, you know, what they are. So that's my discussion on this gun, okay? And like I said, that's the story. It was under $100, and there were a ton of them. I'm not quite sure what they're worth now. Okay, I'd make a rough guess, a very, you know, 3.5, but 5 or something, 500. I don't know. Do they go for 500? Are there people that will pay $500 for this rig? I'm not quite sure. But there you go, guys. A little something to think about, a little chat, and I'm going to have a few more videos like this. I'm going to talk about some other surplus guns out there, and the same discussion, more or less the collector's type of talk here, other than technical, historical, and that. Like I said, if you need to know how to take it apart, or you want the history on these, there's got to be 1,000 videos out on YouTube about this gun. Alright, fellas, hit the like button, subscribe, and stay tuned.